Good morning, everyone. It's me, Sonal Dave, award winning Celebrant, Toastmaster, and public speaking expert. And I'm really excited to be here with you all today. What's so exciting? Of course, those of you who've been watching previous interviews will know that I'm really excited about the launch of my journal. And plenty of you have been filling in the forms, sending in your receipts, and all your names are being added into the competition hat. And I'm looking forward to taking out one of the names and letting you know who that is going to be. But also today, I'm really excited because I've known this lovely lady for quite a long time now. And I'm really excited by the work that she does because she helps a lot of people. She's in the medical world, she's got an immense background, but I'm not going to take all of that away from her telling you exactly who she is and what she does. So we're just going to give a little round of applause and a little drum roll as I invite the wonderful Tina Cad to join us. Good morning, Tina.
Morning. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, I'm just so excited to have you here because we've known each other for a while. We kind of both know what we both do, but we've never
Mhm.
really had a chance just to talk. So it just feels lovely to be able to do that today. But tell everyone who's watching now and everyone who'll be watching later who you are and what you do.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Tina. So I'm a speech and language therapist, a multilingual speech therapist. So I speak in Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi, as well as English. I work with adults who have communication difficulties as well as swallowing difficulties. And that could be as a result of an acquired condition such as stroke, brain injury, as well as a progressive condition such as dementia and Parkinson's. So I provide assessment and therapy, helping people regain their confidence, independence, and reintegrate back into the community, really. So at the moment, I'm working for my practice, Speech Therapy Interactive, after working 10 years for the NHS. So I've worked in a variety of settings, from acute hospitals, rehab settings, to special needs colleges, as well as charities. So yeah, a lot of experience there.
And it's hearing about your different levels of experience and the different people that you help. I mean, that must be quite an emotional, stressful, challenging journey, right?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that I get students. So I tend to mentor as well and supervise student speech and language therapists. And they ask me, what's that one thing that you find difficult about your job? And I think it's that kind of dissociating or not forming as intense attachments with my patients, because when I am coming home, I'm able to give that time to my family and my friends. But that can be very, very difficult, especially when you're dealing with people. You know, they're not objects, they're people, and you kind of almost become a part of their journey. About they become a part of your journey. You're like family.
No, exactly. And total hats off and respect to for what you do because people almost sometimes forget that there's a human behind the therapist, the consultant, the surgeon, the doctor, the nurses that also have their own families and their own life that they have to think about as well as looking after us all as individuals during that time and space that we need looking after. And I've needed looking after for most of my life. So thank you to all of you. So, in your role, what would you describe as maybe the one or two key challenges that face society that maybe we don't talk about enough?
Hmm. If I was to summarize it into a nutshell, I think it's not having the understanding of what it is to be diverse, not having the right tools and the right environment. I mean, you know, there's a lot of, I personally feel with the clients that I deal with, as well as being neurodiverse, they're neurodivergent. So their brain functions and processes things and learns things and behaves in different ways. And not having the right tools for the families, as well as the clients, as well as people within the community, can be very challenging for that person to be able to show their full potential, I guess. It's that feeling of that uncomfortable feeling that people have because they don't have a really great understanding of what it is to be neurodiverse or neurodivergent, and the labels that people associate with it can make it very challenging for not just the person with with being neurodiverse or neurodivergent, but their family members as well, in terms of how to facilitate them, whether it's impacting their cognition, communication, or physical health.
No. And you've mentioned two words there, and over the past few days, like people have been sending me questions that they want me to ask people that I'm interviewing. And it was quite interesting because from the Asian community, I had quite a lot of questions come through that, well, what is neurodiverse? Well, you keep mentioning neurodiversity and neurodiverse and neurodivergent. And I've called, my adult journal, The Neurodivergent Mind. And people actually said, well, what does that mean? And that kind of made me think about society and how, unless we are made aware of, unless we are educated, then there can be no understanding. And therefore, if there is no understanding, how do you support, guide, advise? Would you be able to just share a little bit more about what does it mean, neurodiverse, and what does it mean to be neurodivergent? Just to help anyone who's watching now, and of course, anyone who will be watching later.
Sure. I mean, I wasn't very informative about this. I had no idea until I kind of almost fell into the role, working with individuals with neurodiversity or being neurodivergent. My experience of working with people at the National Centre for Young People with Epilepsy and Autism and working within the special needs schools kind of was a breakthrough for me, learning as a clinician of what it means. Neurodiversity for me now is something that you find as a normal part of evolution. That's how I see it anyway. Like, you have different races, you have different hair types. It's a different way of thinking. It's different wiring, I would say, different type of wiring. So there's many people associate it with being different as a part of their illness, condition, or pathology. For me, it's just a different way of thinking. The natural population, as you see, we know that the numbers are going up because we have a better understanding of what it means to be diverse, I guess. So I've worked with a lot of people in my experience with autism, with ADHD, with dyspraxia. And if you think about it, if you think about the concept of different types of wiring, if you have different wiring, things need to be different. The environment needs to be different in order to cater for people. You need to have the right tools. If you have someone whose preferred hand is their left hand and you ask them to do a task with their right hand, they are going to be able to do it, but maybe not as well. But if they had the right tools, which is to use their left hand rather than their right hand, you would see them excel, Yeah. Simple as that, really. So if you think of a person with sensory difficulties, it's almost like having a superpower. They could be a great chef, but at the same time, putting them in an environment, in a school canteen, it could be such an awful and unpleasant experience for them. So I work with a lot of people who I say are neurodivergent. It's just because their brain functions in a different way because of their difficulties that they are having. So they might have communication difficulties where they can't communicate or articulate verbally, but they can communicate through other means, through pictures, through communication boards, through an AAC device, through writing, through gesture, facial expressions, using a total communication approach. And we all do. We all communicate in different ways. Some of us are better at articulating verbally. Some of us are better at drawing and expressing ourselves through those means or through writing. I think we need to be, as a society, as a community, more educated about this subject matter. And the only way we're going to get through education is through raising awareness. And like you said, if we have the education, we're able to get the right resources, ask the right questions even, and get the appropriate help.
No, and I think it's quite interesting because, a number of the interviews that I've had, a number of other conversations I've had with people, which kind of really triggered me to put myself on this journey to create this journal. And this journal would not be here today if it wasn't for people like yourself who also took time out of your day to guide me and support me in, how to even just structure the questions and the order, and even think about, that. So when I was doing my research on journaling, for example, I
Mm.
realized that when I heard the word journaling in my past, it was always like it's a book and you write in it. And actually, journaling comes just like everything in life, comes in different ways: written, drawing, doodling, scribbling, vocalizing. So I'm definitely a journal person who vocalizes my day. But it's about finding what's right for you. And what I found by working with the focus group to create this journal, we actually created a journal that will help anyone in any, however they choose to present themselves to journal. It will help any of them do that. And I find that, whether you're neurotypical, neurodiverse, whether you have a disability, actually we should just celebrate all these things, celebrate being individual, unique and special. And if we don't, what we're doing is marginalizing a group of people and not giving them the support and advice and guidance that we should be giving. I mean, I'm seeing more and more adults are being diagnosed, where in the past it was always kind of felt it was a children's thing. Actually, more adults and grandmothers are being diagnosed. But as you said, because people are becoming more aware, the nature of neurodiverse conditions is also becoming better understood. We're
Mm.
not 100% there, but we're definitely better on the journey. So doctors and specialists and consultants kind of have a little more in their armory as such to be able to work with an individual to try and find out what's going on. So it's just, I find it such a fascinating subject. It just, the more and more I'm researching into this, the more and more it's making me realize just what a powerful tool our brain is and how much we don't actually give it the recognition that it deserves. So why do you think, from your experience, neurodiversity and neurodiverse conditions are not really spoken about? Why do people sort of, hide it behind, the front door, or not tell their next door neighbor, or maybe not even in their friend circle? What do you think is the reason behind that?
I personally feel that, again, it comes down to not being educated, not having that understanding. If you don't have that education in terms of, you don't know what support is out there available and what you can do about it, or how you can kind of best support that person, if you don't have that knowledge, you are almost going to shy away from it. You almost feel uncomfortable because you can't support it. You don't have the knowledge or the education to support that person. You kind of, as a person, feel uncomfortable. You don't know what to say, what to do, how to behave. And if you can't do that, how do you expect to kind of tell somebody else? I find it a lot within the South Asian community, especially with my clients. Even now, for some people, it's seen as taboo and shame based, which it shouldn't be. I think things are becoming a bit different now. I'm getting a lot of referrals for South Asian individuals, whereas before, within my line of work, when I was seeing a stroke patient or a patient with dementia, there were mainly Caucasians. There actually weren't many South Asian people there. I think it really helps in terms of, I can speak the language as well, so they feel comfortable and they can resonate. It's actually having that understanding of being cultural competent, I guess, knowing their values and beliefs, which kind of eases them, and they're willing to be a bit more open and share, which I think is really, really important. So I feel like people are becoming educated and becoming more aware. People are realizing that we're all diverse, we're all different. And so they are becoming a bit more open, but there is definitely still a bit of a stigma or a perception of neurodevelopment differences as being as having the lack of capability or ability, I think.
Yeah, no, and I think there's also a kind of a fear of society. You know, what will society or the extended family or the, you know, the extended people in the organization or the your workplace, or what will they think? When actually, if you do tell people, then you know people at least have the opportunity to do something, to put some plans in place. But if you say nothing, then you're kind of very much left on your own, and then when you can't deliver or achieve what others around you may be, it's because you haven't said what you should have said to get the help and support. But then I also understand the flip side of that, where you may feel that if you do share, that people may look at you differently, or they may just not want to work with you. And then that's where the lack of understanding of diversity and the more just understanding of being, you know, human and humanity kind of needs to really be kind of pushed out there to make sure people are more aware of it. I genuinely feel it's quite a bit of a struggle in this country because there's not enough education around difference and diversity and different cultures and, you know, different conditions and, you know, somebody who wears glasses or somebody who's disabled or somebody who has a neurodiverse condition. And I just think there are things that can be done, but we're away from it. Kind of, it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, no, completely. I think one of the biggest things is having that fear of being labeled. And if you're labeled, you're almost in a confined box, you know, and anything that you do or things that you might be, even your strengths might be overlooked at. And I think that's that fear, isn't it? I've come across many people with children who've been diagnosed with autism, and they are not willing to almost come to terms with it, or kind of say, go to the schools and say that, you know, my child has autism, because of the fear of that label. And what that means for my child. Oh no, but my child's really good at doing X, Y, and Z, but that's going to be overlooked at because he has autism. And I can completely resonate and understand and empathize for the parents, but then it kind of really frustrates me that they shouldn't feel that way. There
Yeah.
should be that education and awareness amongst society where they should be able to come across and be like, you know, yes, my child does have autism, but that does not define him, you know.
Absolutely. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? You know, a child who has autism, an adult who has autism, it's autism. But as long as you put the right tools and management skills and uh, things in place that are going to help the child, then that child or that adult is going to have a chance to succeed. But if you just kind of go, no, you're autistic, stay in that corner, well, of course they're not going to have a chance to succeed.
Absolutely. It's funny enough you mentioned that. I had a session with a client recently who has aphasia. So, aphasia is difficulties with understanding, talking, reading, and writing, and it tends to vary in terms of severity. So, this client of mine is a 60-year-old lady, very outgoing, very extrovert before her stroke. And since the stroke, she has started integrating back into the community, going to the coffee shops, but she goes with her husband or she goes with her daughter, and the daughter and the husband do all the talking for her. She doesn't, because she said to me, I feel different. I feel like I'm going to be looked at in a different way. And it really has knocked down her self-esteem and her confidence. So I did a session with her, a functional communication session, where I took her to the coffee shop. And I provided her with those communication opportunities where she had to order the drink for herself and myself. She had to ask for the bill. And it was quite empowering for her. First of all, she didn't have her husband and her daughter to rely on. She was almost put in a situation where she was like, okay, I have difficulties with finding the right words, but what can I do? Let me use my strategies that I've been using in my speech therapy sessions and transfer them out there. And I remember the waitress coming, and she was trying to find the word that I want a cappuccino. And she was like, I want And the lady was talking for her, almost interrupting, saying, "Oh, do you want a coffee? Do you want this?" And she was getting really frustrated. And just the simple thing of me kind of intervening and being like, just give her some time.
Yeah.
And she did. And she said, "I want a," and then she pointed to the words cappuccino and she said this. And then I went, "Oh yeah, what does that say?" It says cat. And she went cappuccino. And I was like, "Yeah, okay, so that's what she would like." And it's having, again, that environment, like educating that waitress by going, just give her some time and she will come up with it. And what was really important after having that session with the client was for me to tell her, it doesn't really matter if you couldn't find the right word, cappuccino, does not matter. For a fact that you could point to it and it's written there and the lady knows exactly what you want, you communicated your wishes, she was able to get you the drink. And that's what's important, for you to convey your message and be understood. It doesn't really matter how you do it, whether it's through pointing, whether it's through gesture, facial expressions. And she said to me at the end of the session, she said, "Thank you for making me feel like I'm an ordinary person." And that in itself was really heartbreaking. And it was like, oh, that's so sad that she felt the need to say that she feels ordinary. And it's just those things, it's just simple things in terms of educating people in society. And I don't blame them. I mean, I did not know much about stroke until it happened to someone who's really close to me. My father had a stroke, and that's how I got to educate myself and learn about it. Whereas with some people, it's something that they don't think about because it's something that's not very common to them. They don't come across it very often. So it's really great to be able to, for you as well, educating people and raising that awareness, just to be a bit more mindful, I think.
And that's the important thing. It's just if somebody is reacting or behaving in a slightly different way to what you think is norm, then it doesn't mean that what they're doing is wrong. It doesn't mean that what they're doing is, oh my God, what are they doing? Just take a step back, take a breath, and just give it a moment. And I think that's great what you showed there, because just taking that step back, taking a breath, giving a moment, you'll see what is actually happening. And it could be a tantrum from, a child who's just having a child tantrum that they would have, when they don't get the chocolate that they want in the supermarket. Or it could be that a loud sound has just triggered a child or an adult who has a neurodiverse condition, and therefore that is the way they're reacting. We don't know. None of us really knows what's happening to the person next to us, sitting on a bus, a train, on a plane, anywhere. So it is really about just giving some time and space. So thank you, because those examples have been fantastic, and I think they are going to definitely resonate with people who are going to be watching. And of course, anyone who's watching now and later, if you do have any questions for Tina or myself, just put them in the comments, and we will go back and make sure that we answer the questions. And likewise, any of you who've contacted me privately and messaged me with questions, I'm absolutely happy to put them out to everyone who I'm interviewing. Journaling, Tina. Your experience of journaling, good, bad, what would you say?
I love it. I'm a gratitude logger myself. I love journaling. I think it's really, really a great tool. Logging your moods, your thoughts. It's a really great way of identifying any triggers, fears, letting it all out, I think, exploring the difficult feelings that one might be feeling at that point. And I think the only way that you are able to find coping methods to, I guess, manage those unpleasant feelings is by first identifying them. So I think it's a great tool, logging your emotions, logging your thoughts, finding that trigger, a great way of finding coping methods when you're feeling overwhelmed or distressed. I think it's something that everyone can benefit from, really.
No, and it was one of the things that I remember when numerous years ago when I was in hospital, and they were saying, you must write this all down. And I was like, I don't write down how I'm feeling. I tell people, I vocalize how I'm feeling. So it's been quite interesting learning that journey of journaling, but journaling for me, and you can imagine that for some, adults and children actually drawing, and then importantly, the color they might use. That red might be their angry color, and yellow or green might be their happy color. And just trying to understand that and really get to grips with being able to share what's happening to you, that's both the good, and I believe, and the not so good as well. So I think it's important to do a balance of both, and not always when it's a bad day, because it's good to know what's made you happy in a day, as well as what's made you not so happy in a day. And that's the beauty, I think, of that I have now understood of journaling. um, and then having spoken to the different people in the focus group and got them to have a look at drafts, and it was quite good because we did change the order of the questions. We did add in some extra mandalas because I was being told that many of them just want to color and doodle and scribble and give them that space. And we even included some blank pages at the end, so almost the safe space to write what you want and draw, doodle, whatever it is you want to do. And then there's some lovely quotes that run through it as well. But do you find that for many, journaling is a chore?
I think it's the way you present it. Like you said, everybody is different. For you, you're more vocal. You don't write writing. Some people can express it in different forms in terms of drawing. I think it's what's right for you in terms of how you want to express yourself, whether it's through talking, writing, drawing. I think it's really nice to be able to have a little safe haven, a safe space where you can. I mean, I tend to do it at the end of the day. I kind of, the emotions and the feelings that I'm feeling through the patients that I'm seeing, the clients that I'm seeing, can be very overwhelming for me. So it's really nice to be able to release that out. I can't share that with my husband because of confidentiality, but there's something that I have that I can kind of almost let out how I'm feeling. And the only way for me to kind of re-energize and give more is to be able to kind of let loose from here, so I can. So I think it works differently for different people. I'm not saying journaling might be best for everybody, but there are different types of journaling. And like you said, I think we often think of journaling as like writing, but it doesn't have to be writing. It could be drawing, it could be just writing single words. It doesn't have to be paragraphs or sentences. It's the way you want to kind of look at things, and the way you feel comfortable in terms of expressing yourself using a total communication approach.
Absolutely. And for some, and I only heard this the other day because somebody who got in touch with me said to me, I use voice notes. I just voice note what's happening at that particular moment. And then I'll, listen back to the voice note a few days later. So there are the way technology is today, there are so many different ways. And, whether you want to use technology, whether you want to use your own spoken word, whether you want to write, draw, Google, doodle, whatever it is that works for you. And I think that's the important thing, that we are all different and we should celebrate that. And by celebrating, we should also find what works for us and not
Absolutely.
feel that I must do what Tina does and Tina must not feel that she has to do what Sonal does. So I, as you know, am absolutely excited about my launch, and I'm asking everyone I'm interviewing, are you as excited as I am?
Yeah, no, I am definitely excited for you. I think it's going to be a really useful tool for people to help with that, reducing that feeling of anxiety, easing that psychological distress, and like you said, cultivating gratitude. Why not? Really great for improving psychological well-being, which is going to be impacting somebody's quality of life, which is what we want to do eventually. It doesn't matter, as therapists, as doctors, as nurses, our main goal is to improve our patients' quality of life. So I think it's a beautiful way. I mean, there's a lot of research out there with people with ADHD using journaling. There's a lot of research out there in terms of journaling and using mindfulness, using meditation, because you're kind of learning to stay in the present. and learning to focus. So you're almost stimulating those underdeveloped brain areas. So I think it's it's wonderful. Even with my patients who have dementia, I think it's really, really nice, especially with my patients who are at the early stages of dementia, to be able to do some journaling is a great way of them coming to a way of processing, I guess, the changes that they are coming across and documenting that, whether it's through pictures or drawing or writing, and also exercising that your brain activity in terms of improving memory. I've seen that amongst dementia population. It's been really, really helpful. I think it's a wonderful tool, and I'm really, really happy for you, Sonal.
Thank you so much, Tina, and I'm really happy that you were part of this as well in my journey and helping me to get here, because it was so important for me to get the right people, both in terms of adults who had a neurodiverse condition themselves, or adults who were looking after a child or an adult or a carer, as well as the medical profession as well, because otherwise I was just not getting everyone's input into something that I really wanted to be a valuable resource for others, just like my online communication stuff that I know is such a valuable resource and is now across the globe, which I'm really happy about. But I wanted this to have that same impact, because we don't have enough in the school curriculum, in the work, learning and development courses that they do, that really represents life skills, helping people through their journey of life, helping people deal with self-acceptance, so, our own emotions, are the way we think, as we are all diverse, and actually these are all helping in their own little way, and ultimately helping, well, I hope ultimately helping mental health of an individual, because they're actually helping them to understand. Because sometimes it could be that I, as an individual, it might be my behavior that's
Mm,
impacting how Tina might react. It might be something I'm doing, and by doing the journal in whichever way you choose to do it, you may actually realize, it might help you to realize that actually it's your behavior, and it's not
mm,
always somebody else has done something, which is quite
absolutely.
it's quite hard to kind of accept, isn't it, that, oh god, it's me. But actually, once you know that, then you can um, adapt and learn to manage what you do, so that it doesn't then become an impact on others around you.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a great tool for both ends, I guess, in that way, in terms of not just kind of looking at the person who's journaling, but the support network around them. Are they doing anything to kind of trigger that behavior, or what can they do in terms of adapting the environment or their communication style to facilitate them? So yeah, I think it's really, really useful, especially
Um,
amongst I would say, sorry, I wanted to add is I see a lot of patients who've had strokes, and I think journaling is something really, really beautiful that they can kind of do to manage that psychological distress. In terms of when you have a stroke, it's such a sudden event, it can have a really knock-on effect in terms of changes as who you are as a person. It can affect your work, your relationships with people around you. You feel that sense of frustration, anxiety, even depression, and to be able to let your feelings out in any way, form, having that, it's kind of nice to be able to reduce that psychological distress. And again, that's going to have an impact on your quality of life. So it's almost like a vicious circle, I guess. So yeah, I think it's really useful for many people, really.
Thank you. And Tina, I really want to thank you for being here today. And I've got some quick fire questions for you, which it just gets to know you a little bit better, especially me, as well as everyone who's watching now or will be watching later. What is your favorite animal and why?
Ooh. My favorite animal, dogs. I love
Oh,
dogs. I love dogs. I've always had a dog since I've been growing up. My best friend was my dog, Sherry. I had her for 14 years, my German Shepherd, and since she passed away, we haven't got a dog. she was my best friend. You know, every time I used to have an exam or something, used to come home and go, Sherry, I've got an exam. And she would bark. And I was like, you're the only one that understands.
You know, it's so true when I say to people, you know, because I vocalize, that's my journal, and it is my two dogs, Neo and Ray. And anyone who sees me on social media will have seen pictures of them at some time. And I'll be just like, oh, it's been such a bad day today. You'll never guess what happened, Neo. And then Ree will go, woof. And I'll be, yeah, and Ree. And, you know, got to speak to both of them. You can't just speak to one of them. And
Yeah.
almost any tension just dissipates and you feel like you've had a really good day. So I absolutely, and you're always welcome to come and visit Neo and Ree and just tell them about your exams or your day, because I'm sure they totally understand the confidentiality rules around what you can and can't tell them. And the second question, if you could do one thing to change the world to be a better place, what would it be?
If I could do anything, I would want the speech and language therapy profession to be a bit more diverse. I'm always promoting diversity. I always say my clients are diverse. Why aren't we? And that's the biggest thing for me at the moment, paving the way for speech and language therapy. 95% of the speech therapists are Caucasians. Only 5% are from ethnic minorities. And I think, again, it comes to education, not being aware of what speech and language therapy is as a profession and what we do. And we don't just work with children, we work with adults as well. So I think I would love to be able to do something or be able to see or leave a legacy of somewhat behind, to be able to have a range of speech and language therapists that are diverse, to meet the needs of the diverse population that we have around now. So yeah, that would be one thing I'd love.
And you know how much I am so up for that, because I think ever since we met, you know, I've always been one for breaking down barriers and, you know, getting Asian women doing things that, you know, Asian women would not normally be doing. For me, it's the Toastmaster, it's the Celebrant, it's the public speaking expert, it's, you know, getting Asian women finding their voice. And being powerful in their voice and not feeling like they have to go, but do you think, you know, none of this, do you just, well, I think we should do this, you know, and you know, whether it's children, adults. So I love that answer. And if I think of anyone who I think would be super, you know, useful and should be heading in the direction, they will get a gentle nudge from me, for sure. And then I love this question. Who is your favorite superhero and why?
Ooh, my favorite superhero. My dad.
Oh,
Simple.
I love that. Everyone's come up with everyone's been Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, your dad. Tell me why.
My dad. He's amazing, absolutely amazing. So one of the reasons why I went into this profession is because my father had a stroke, and seeing him in his journey and where he is now and what he's done and what he's gone through really inspires me and makes me want to do my profession and work hard even more and be like, you know, I want what my dad has. I want that for everyone, for all my patients to feel empowered, for all my patients to feel like they're valued, that they're needed. So yeah, my father.
Oh, no.
Quite emotional, but yeah, my father.
No, I love that answer. And I think, you know, there would be many of us girls who would be going, our dads. I see what my dad has gone through in life, you know, with my mum. My mum passed away 2012. My dad is 80, and for the last few years in particular, where I felt really ill, my dad was cooking for me. He was ringing my husband and saying, her dishes are ready, and
Oh,
he was cooking, and it was like, I'm sure it's supposed to be the other way around, where daughters looking after their dad. But no, I love that answer. And when you see your dad, just give him a big hug from me as well,
I will.
and Neo and Ree as well,
I
from
will.
all of us, definitely. Tina, thank you so much for taking time out of your day, because I know I have interrupted your working day,
No,
but it's been, you know, I've wanted to do this for so long, but circumstances meant it had to wait, but we are launched, and we have had the pleasure of having some great people like yourself who kind of live it, breathe it daily, being part of the interview series. And I'm just ever so thankful for you taking the time to be here with me today.
Thank you so much, and good luck with everything. And if you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to get in touch.
Thank you. I'm going to retire you to the waiting room, but do stay there as I say goodbye to everyone who's watching. Hey everyone, so that was the awesome Tina Cad, a language and speech therapist, and she speaks, I think that was 4 or 5 different languages I counted there. So if any of you need any help, support, or guidance, do reach out to Tina, and you can also reach out to me and I can direct you to Tina as well. But I hope you've enjoyed today's session. It's all been about somebody who's in the medical profession, who is daily dealing with people who have neurodiverse conditions, and that is both adults and children. Once again, don't forget, should I say, that the journals are now on Amazon and have been launched. You can see any of my social media profiles and all the links are there. There's also a competition to win one of my online courses. So if you do buy the book, make sure you share the receipt using the link with the form. And then I will be putting names into a hat on Monday and then letting you know who's the winner. But for now, from Sonal Dave, it's goodbye, and I'll see you a bit later.